Good afternoon, evening, everyone. I will ask you the sentences that you probably heard 20 times per day. Can you hear me loud and clear? If so, just leave it quickly in the chat that you can hear me so that I know we are good from tech perspective. Yes, amazing. Okay, that's great. I'm super excited that you're all here because we're talking about a topic today which is very exciting to me, and I'm hoping to transfer this energy to you today as well and make you as excited as I am about it. But before we dive into all the content, we're going to do a bit of interaction also today. So I want you to take the phone and scan the QR code, go to slido.com and use this code that you see on the screen. Okay, if you use the barcode, it's automatically getting you in there. And there you, who is unmuted actually? Please mute yourself, everyone. So one participant is typing, two are typing. Great. So soon we will see, we have Portugal. That's great. Sweden. Hello, Sweden. Who else do we have? Lithuania. Oh, Lithuania seems to be most present so far. Who else do we have? While we are waiting for others to join, usually take a couple of minutes before everybody's on board. Germany, Netherlands, great. But so far, most seem to be coming from Lithuania. Lithuania myself as well. Great, even United States we have here. That's amazing. Latvia, well represented. Finland. Okay. Seems that some people need to mute. Okay, great. Thank you for that. The next one is, what is your role, your occupation? So not anymore your countries. We're done with the countries. What is your occupation? What do you do? Are you a founder? Are you a manager? Are you a team leader? Founder, associate?
Okay.
What is your role? Okay. Operations supervisor, strategic marketer, great CEO, head of sales. But it seems that we have most founders on board. Manager. Amazing. So we're 3 minutes in. I think that most people that are planning to join are anyway in right now. So thank you for that. We're going to use this functionality also throughout the rest of the session. So please keep your phone next to you because I will have a couple more questions for you. Super. Okay. So let's dive in. First, I want to start with who am I? Well, I'm the founder of Remote. Remote is a boutique consulting agency. Basically, in a nutshell, I help starting out companies making strategy like childishly simple, like Mickey Mouse language, because I believe that strategy is too academic, too much jargon, too much difficult words. But actually, strategy and strategic planning is pretty simple if you just put it in the right words. So what I do is make it very easy to understand for small businesses, take little of their time for it, and also help them implementing a framework that helps them execute. Now, previously I did that. I was in the H&M, a large corporation for almost 20 years, mostly in leadership roles. And yeah, for the past 6 years, I'm doing consulting now. Been also an startup CEO. That was a journey last year that ended prematurely, as in the start, well, happens a lot. But I really have a passion for strategy. I am completing at this stage some certifications with the Harvard Business School in strategy, because also that is one of my core strengths, looking at the Clifton Strengths Finder. Now, if you're familiar with it, very, very cool topic for another session, but it basically says like, where do your strengths lie, your intrinsic strengths. I'm also a startup mentor here in Lithuania, and I love to go on stage once in a while to speak about what I really love. So why am I doing this seminar again when probably some of you I've seen also in my previous one, which was a couple of months ago, where I showed this slide. And this slide is representing.
Recording in progress.
Is representing what actually is happening right now. This was in April. They said it's not as usual. There is coming an economic downturn. We should plan for the worst. And when we look now a couple of months further, we can actually see that it's happening. We see a huge decline in funding that's being granted to startups. And even November, look, it's still on the last bar here. You can see there's a huge decline. It's becoming increasingly more difficult for startups to raise funds. And even if you're joining and you're a company not VC funded, the general downturn, here's the S&P 500, forces us to rethink our businesses. It forces us to go from growth at all cost to profit at all cost. Okay. Now, strategy is about knowing what you do, right? What are we going to do? But it's also a lot about what you're not going to do. And knowing not to work on is actually your fastest way to profitable growth. Because the amount of things that we don't do, that we shouldn't do, is much larger than the things that we should do. So cutting out the waste by having a very clear strategic plan is one of your best ways to boost profitability. That's why I'm now all about strategic planning for startups, because I really believe it's one of their keys in order to make it through this down. And we don't know if we have seen the bottom already. We do know that we're still going down. So strategic management, as I mentioned, it's crucial when you're in rough waters, because that is what keeps the ship ahead of the waves. You know, imagine that big ship that's going over these huge waves. It needs to go straight on the waves. As soon as it goes sideways, one big wave can flip over the ship. And that's how I see strategic management, really. Keeping your ship ahead and go over those waves that are coming at you. But there are some challenges, right? I spoke to more than 100 business owners, combined with the clients that I work with, and also in my networking and it's live sessions I did on LinkedIn. And I realized that 95% of people in companies actually don't understand the strategy of the company. That's mind-blowing figure, because strategy is an important thing right now when we are, you know, head on those huge waves. Harvard also confirms this. Actually, the number comes also from an article Harvard released recently about, you know, why don't people understand this? And 76% says that actually in that strategic planning process, keeping the team aligned is the toughest challenge. Now, we are also in a remote world right now, and that makes it even double as tough. And 58% says that they are worried for their profit in this recession. So they're really worried that they might not make a profit anymore. So that's why the goal of this webinar today is, I really want to give you a very simple strategic planning framework that you can literally start using tomorrow so that you tap into growing profitably. And it takes no more than 5% of your time. I said strategic is overly complicated by academics. All respects for the academics who, you know, developed the theories around strategy, which is one of the key reasons why businesses are succeeding these days. But for smaller business, it is too heavy, it's too complex. That's why I want to really simplify this. So we will cover what does strategic planning mean. I will cover some misconceptions about strategy. I give you 4 steps in building a strategic plan. We have some discussion around executing a strategic plan, and then there's also room for an open Q&A. Sounds good? I can hear the yeses. Now, what is strategic planning? Let's start first with misconceptions, okay? Because strategic planning, when I speak with customers, with startups, they say that execution is much more important than strategy, actually. Actually, execution is part of your strategy. Strategic plan isn't just a thing that you have on paper about what you're going to do and what not. It is also a decision, a strategic decision on how you decide to design your organization around that strategic plan. And that organization is your execution. So execution or strategy, they go hand in hand. They are two sides of the same medal. And actually, we need a medal with three sides, because the next misconception is that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Well, actually, if you state that, it means that your strategic approach is to put people first in your company. And that is your strategic decision in order to achieve the plans that you have made for yourself. So there's a truth to this misconception that if you say your culture is more important than your strategy, your strategy is to put people first, because you believe that is going to cascade down in the business value you're looking for. The third misconception is about that strategy is fixed. Not true. You don't sit down once a year or once and for the next 5 years and you build a strategy. Strategic planning is a continuous process. You constantly need to revisit circumstances out there, external factors, internal factors, and adjust your strategic to that. So it isn't true that you need to become blindfolded in a way, what the horses are wearing, and like that's our strategy, so we're not deviating from that. Actually, strategic planning is like, what we do today will not work tomorrow. How are we going to do it tomorrow? And that, not a misconception, is
Progress.
so we will stay ahead of the competition because we are agile. No, agility will help you in your strategic planning process, because you know fast how to jump ship and how to adjust course while you're going over those waves. Now, I mentioned a couple of times the word strategy and the word strategic plan. What is the difference? And I actually want to ask you this. So if you take your phone, scan the QR code or go to slido.com, use the code that you see here, and write in one word or in a short sentence, what do you think is the main difference between strategy and a strategic plan? Okay, I see that one participant starts to type. That's great. 2. Vision versus action. Great. That's anonymous. That's a very good way of putting it. Okay, there are 5 more coming. 6. It's really great to share each other's point of view, because I'm not here to tell you that I'm the know-it-all. I'm here to tell you my perspective on it. And there are a lot of perspectives around strategy, and I love to learn from you. So strategy for company, plan for employees. Great way of putting it. Strategic plan is a roadmap to achieve strategy. Great, great. Strategy is vision, yes. Okay, let's give it another 30 seconds to see. Thesis versus execution. Plan is how you achieve the goals defined by strategy. Strategic plan is action plan. No idea, that's okay. Vision, direction versus go-to-market. Great. Well, I'm very happy to see there's a good understanding between what a strategy is and what a strategic plan is. Now let's continue. Thank you for your inputs. I'm going to close the poll now. I want to really give you a very simplified version of how I see it. Strategy is your box. This is how you have decided to overcome the challenges in your industry. The walls of those boxes are moving, by the way, right? But you always have a box. What do we do inside? What don't we do is outside of your box. And a strategic plan is, what do we do inside of that box? What do we work on? How are you driving your organization in the right direction? So you see, it's very much aligned to what most of you said, actually. And that's very good. That's very cool. So thank you for that. But there are, even though we know, all of us, what a strategy means and what strategy plans mean, with most companies I speak with, they have real challenges in rolling this out on a consistent, habitual way in their organization. So there are a couple of signs of bad strategic plans. And instead of lecturing them to you, I again want to ask them to you. What do you think? Which signs at your company or your venture or your organization, whatever it is, even if it's a nonprofit or club, what signs do you see that are a proof of, there's an opportunity to improve our strategy or strategic planning? And here you see what those signs are. Too many long meetings, endless tasks being added, often coming back to already made decisions, too many different ideas to achieve one goal, endless tasks being added, and too many, it's moving around my list here, overall confusion in the organization, misalignment. So please use this little barcode on the side, go into Slido and share your opinion with the other 44 on the call. Overall confusion seems to be something that I also hear a lot when I have sort of exploration conversations with companies, often coming back to make decisions. Heard that before as one of the most common. Great, too many long meetings, especially in the remote world. It's chasing us, those long meetings. Ooh, often coming back to make decisions, coming back on the top. Okay. So we have 17 responses. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds to see what you guys think about how you see it in your company. Anybody else participating? Okay. So you have spoken, and number one is the overall confusion in the organization. That is overall what you say is most common. And I see that as well. And of course, confusion is never good for motivation and engagement of your team. So really good that you are so aware about these and that you see the signs of confusion in the organization, because that awareness is your first step into actually making a strategic plan and tackling those. Super. Okay, thanks a lot. I'm going to close the poll now. So now I'm going to dive into a very simplified framework for strategic planning that is more than good enough for any small, I would say even medium business that right now doesn't have this habit to become more strategic, like instantly. First of all, everything, and you would agree with me because I've seen you're in the poll, that it all starts with having a very clear direction for the company. And I will dive deeper in all of those points later on. First, I want to show you the roadmap here. But you also need to really clearly understand what is your departure point. Where do you start? Where is your business right now? Then on your road towards that clear direction, you need to understand what are the short-term objectives to get there. Short-term, anything within a year, preferably even very clear for the next quarter. You need the right measurements that actually don't tell you just fancy in performance, but tell you whether or not your strategic plan is being executed in the right way. In other words, does your plan yield the results that you want? Does it give you the value you're seeking? And then build around that an execution framework. An execution framework, you have to see this as sort of small sister of the whole organization, because a whole organization is, of course, a much more complex organism. It's like a living thing, it needs love and care and food and playfulness. But an execution framework basically sits in an organization, and that's what you need to really define clearly when it comes to executing on your strategic plan. Now, let me dive a bit deeper into what all these points mean here. Well, a very clear direction. What does it mean? Seen it, some of you saying it in the poll already. Define your mission statement. Define your vision statement. You can call your vision statement also your purpose. Define your core values. What are the principles you live by? Not what you aspire to be, but what is really your core values. If your core values, you're not afraid of the pain that it will give you to set those, because it's going to leave a couple of people outside of the of the team because they don't align with them. If you don't have that fear for that, your values are just hollow, empty. So you need to really define that very strictly and clearly. And I know there's a good colleague, a good friend of mine on the call right now today, and he has a whole business around core values. And what he said is, if you have your core values well defined, you have a 4 times higher retention of your people in the organization. That's mind-blowing, not only from a cost perspective, but also from a time and effort perspective. And then, as part of your clear direction, you need 2 to 3 big stretch goals for the next 3 to 5 years. Stretch goals, ambitious, that's why I use the word big, bold, inspiring, and guiding. Stretch goals is the official word, but I like bold, inspiring, and guiding goals much better. That is your definition of the direction. If you set this up really clear, articulate that, use that on a daily basis, like you're watering your plant every day, that is already more than half of the work done, because people need to understand, why am I doing this? Where is it going to bring us that I'm performing my work today? Where are we in the years ahead? Then the second one, we're going all the way back of our journey. Now we were already a little bit off on the mountain there, but now we're going back to the start. Your departure point. It's imperative, super important to understand, where are you right now? And there's one tool that you probably heard about, SWOT. Oh, another boring corporate sounding academic tool, right? No, it's just a super underused tool, but very powerful. And it's underused because companies don't know how to use it to their benefit. When I come into companies, yeah, we've done our SWOT. Oh, great. Can you tell me everything about it? Yeah, I will send it to you. When I already know about sending, it's probably not much. And then it's like a half pager where there's 3 words under strengths, 3 words under weaknesses, etc., and so forth. That is not a SWOT. The SWOT that I do with my clients takes probably 4 to 5 sessions of an hour to really identify this. Now, why is that? Well, obviously, you do need to understand first your strengths and your weaknesses, your opportunities and your threats, right? But very often, what I see is like, our strength is teamwork. Okay, go deeper, 5 levels at least. Why is the teamwork so good at our company? What is the source why it's so good at our company? And then you get an answer and you question that again, you go again deeper. If you do that for all of them, it takes time, but the amount of insight that you get is game changing. And it is game changing because if you have that listed out really well, then you can decide how you want to strengthen and invest in your SWOT. So your SWOT will give you a map of work that needs to be done that will make up your key initiatives. Now, key initiatives, what is it? It's basically the most important things you know need to be done in order to use your strengths, your weaknesses, invest in the opportunities, mitigate the risks of the threats, and build a plan with that towards your top of the mountain. SWOT, super important, defines your departure point. Then the third one is short-term objectives. Set 3 to 5 company-wide yearly objectives that are in line with your big goal. This is goal cascading, okay? So you have your 2, 3 huge goals, stretch goals in line with your mission and your vision. What are you going to do this year on those? 3 to 5 company-wide yearly objectives. What are we going to do this year that's in line with those big goals? Now, then you want to cascade down backwards. What 3 to 5 objectives company-wide are we going to work on next quarter? Now, those objectives you're breaking down also in key results. Probably some of you have already heard about it. I'm talking about the OKR framework. Again, a framework which is overly complicated while it's actually super simple. If you cut off the fat, so to say. Now, when you have that, or objectives, your key results, then you have those key initiatives, the most important things to work on. And then you connect those key initiatives from your departure point towards your your big goals. You know exactly which key initiative is connected to which objective. And that's where your plan is actually coming together already. That's 80% of your plan done for at least in detail for next year, but also with a lot of trust into achieving in the next 3 to 5. But it doesn't stop there, right? Like, we're driving this car, great, all cute. How do we know we actually driving at the right speed, I should say, that we have enough fuel, that our engine is not overheating, right? That our tires have pressure. So what tells us this? This is metrics, KPIs, in other words, key performance indicators, or actually those measurements that tell you whether or not you're doing something good or you need to improve. That metrics should not just be centered around performance. They should tell you whether or not your strategic plan is being executed on the right way. When you build a visual dashboard around that for monthly KPI follow-up, and you have there your monthly strategy meeting, and you put those things together, man, you get so much insights about what's going on in your business. One of my clients told me last week, like, I finally know after 3 years what's really going on in my business. Super powerful tool. Then next step is to connect incentives and rewards to some of those metrics. You have to be careful with this. There are probably some HR people here. You have to be careful with this, but you do want to pick some of your most important KPIs and see how can we build a reward system, an incentive system around those to motivate and to apply support to our organization in achieving those KPIs. Then last but not least, the execution framework, right? Like, what are the basics of an execution framework? It absolutely starts first and foremost with clearly defining what are the responsibilities and accountabilities within the strategic plan. RACI. RACI stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. In other words, it's basically having a super clear agreement who does what and who is accountable for what. Then you need to build out your projects and workflows for your OKRs, because now you know what are the objectives, what are the key results, you know also what key initiatives, but that's not just getting you there. So one tool that I really love using is Asana, but it works in any tool: Monday, ClickUp, Trello, Jira if you're a more techy company. You need to build out those at least for the next quarter, with next month being very detailed. So you know exactly what are all the steps we need to do this month to achieve a milestone. You see, you're going to the task level here. So you have this huge vision for the next 5 years that you translate back into one single task tomorrow done by Anna in the marketing department. That is where your strategic plan really shows its power. Then communication, right? I mean, we cannot not communicate. And building a communication structure around your strategic goals is very important to keep your strategic plan alive, and also to get the daily input to make changes to your strategic plan. Most companies don't spend enough time on their strategy. They execute on their customers' needs, on overcoming challenges in the organization. Yeah, we need to do that as well, but that's make us forget what we actually agreed upon in our strategic plan. So you need to build a dedicated communication structure. That's strategy. Here we're talking strategy. In other words, here we're talking OKRs, because your OKRs, if done correctly, are your strategic plan. That's at least the executional perspective of your strategic plan. And then to build one source of truth, it's in line with what I said. Choose one tool where you know that everything around your strategy sits in. Nothing there, a little bit in Drive and a little bit in Slack, and then everything in one tool. One source of truth is super important to have a continuous execution on your strategy. That was me a lot talking. Now I want to hear you again a little bit. Take your phones, please. scan the barcode or go to slido.com, use the code, and just like you did in the previous slides, how well are these strategic aspects in place at your company? And then the sad emoji is we need to start this. The loving emoji is we totally nailed this. And I want to see that you nailed this because it's such an important thing right now. Okay, so we have 16 participants, 17 responses now. With, unfortunately, we need to start at the highest. Okay, so we have 17. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds or so. So if you want to join in, we have an average score of 3.4. Well, that's not too bad, actually. I'm happy to see that there's 12%, 12, 24, 36%-ish that actually is quite satisfied with this. But that's great. 19% sits a little bit in the middle. Okay, amazing. 21 responses, that's more than half almost of the group. Great, thank you for that. That was super insightful. Let's move on. Now, executing on your strategic plan. You know, I can speak for hours about this, but who loves to listen to a monologue? I actually want to make this more interactive. And unfortunately, I know that with 44 people on the call, having live conversations is a bit distracting and chaotic. That's why I made another Slido, which I will show you in a second, to discuss with you actually what it is that you want to ask. What do you want to know about execution of your strategy more in detail? But before we do that, every company has a strategy. Even if you answered, we need to start, you already have a strategy. You might not have articulated your strategy, but you have it. You just need to look at where do you put your time, your money, and your effort, because that reveals what is your strategy. So if you focus and you invest your time in delivering a great customer service, well, part of your strategy is actually, to stay competitive and to stay ahead in the market is to give great customer service. And there are more aspects. Other companies might fully focus on shareholder value, right? Great, then your strategy is more around that. I'm not diving today into that you need to write down your strategy statement. That's all next level stuff. The framework that you have got today is already going to answer this question into very much details for you. But here we go. So this is an active poll, meaning that I will just see your questions popping up here, or your comments is also good. And we can have a discussion around those comments. Take your phone and scan the barcode and just drop here. Let's do this interactive. That's much more fun than just listening to a single-sided lecture. Okay, I see somebody is starting to type. 4 already. Super exciting what's coming up. Okay, I guess this requires a little bit more than one word to express. We have 11 already typing. Where do I start? Okay, I have something at the end of this webinar that will explain you where to start. I will answer that in the end of this call, okay? How to define your mission and your vision, how to be fair in doing SWOT. Oh, that's a great question. I love that. Well, your mission and your vision, and I have a whole separate workshop for that, which I'm actually delivering tomorrow at a company. But in a nutshell, a vision comes mainly out of your belief. Why is this a good thing that you're doing? What are your hopes and dreams? What are you inspired to change in the world? And how is this contributing to the greater good? That is a vision statement. It's an expression of those and the answers of those questions, but in a way that everybody in the organization understands it and also resonates with it. Your mission statement is very similar. It tells you basically what it is that you do, whom are you serving with that, and how are you serving them. And then the how is more, what kind of problems are you solving for your clients? And how to be fair in your SWOT involve many people in your organization. You know, it's when you do a SWOT with 2 people, then it's very easy to say, okay, so it's good, we have done it, you know, ticked off. But ask your people. If you're a very, very small company, it's a bit tougher, of course, but involve people in the organization, ask them for their opinions. So which one is the purpose of the company? The why? Is it the vision? The vision statement is also often widely used as the purpose of the company, because the vision statement expresses the why behind the business. Let me give a quick example with, for example, SpaceX, right? SpaceX vision is to make humanity multi-planetary. So why do they want to do that? They don't communicate it in the vision statement, but the belief sits behind it. And that is, one planet is not enough for humankind. If something happens to this planet, a meteorite or whatever, let's hope that's not happening, we need to jump ship. We need to have an alternative station for humanity, or we have a high risk of perishing. So their vision, make humanity multi-planetary. You see, so the vision statement is the purpose. This is why are we doing this? There are actually researches already done in the 30s of the last century that figure out that when people believe that what they are doing is contributing to something larger than themselves, even larger than the company, that it increases engagement and motivation. But somehow these studies just got lost over the decades, and they're being picked up in the last 2 decades, I would say. Lots of great books around there right now. Drive is a great one. I recommend all to read. How can I verify the strategy? Big question. Well, you verify it with the measurements of the results. Like, you have metrics in place that tell you whether or not your strategy is paying off. But your verification might change, because your strategy should change constantly. Your strategic plan, at least, should be constantly adapting new circumstances. But that's one of your verifications is your metrics. What would be a good tool to take into use company-wide, big company, for strategic planning and follow-up? I don't know how big, but I guess it's a couple of hundred, if not thousands. I'm not aware about any corporate strategic planning tools. And I think that the tool is also not the solution. The habit in place is the solution. And everyone in the organization understanding the strategy is the solution. The tool is only going to help you execute it. And that can be as easy as an Asana, even for a larger company. Because small companies set company-wide, huge companies set also company-wide, but huge companies have business units that function on their own. And you have your own objectives inside your business unit. So it's, again, another level of cascading down your big goals. Okay, I want to go a little bit to the bottom. How to create a good coalition to create an anti-fragile company and recognize good leadership and stable management. Okay, this is a bit more on the leadership side of things, but just like execution, leadership it's just part of your strategy as well. What is very important in creating a coalition is to make sure that the jobs in the company are balanced. I'm not talking work-life balance kind of thing, although this is shown to be also quite important these days. What I mean here is that a job is like economy. You have supply and you have demand. If there's a mismatch between the supply and the demand, the economy doesn't work. That's the same for a job. So in order to have a good coalition, everybody needs to understand his or her role in the strategy, very clear, but also has a job that has the right amount of supply for their demand in order to do their job correctly and well. So that is how you create a good coalition. Okay, well, I think those were great Great question. How to write right vision and mission. I have touched upon this. You can watch it back in the recording that I will share also within the next few days, probably until Monday. Do we have another good one that I can take here? Sometimes we're good. Sometimes we're good in setting strategies, but not that good to implement them. What is required for the success of good implementation? Oh, that's a very good question, actually. All the goals that you are setting in your strategies, right? Like the objectives, the key initiatives, if they are not in line with your mission and your vision, if they are lacking clarity around like how do our core values actually help us in achieving those, when you lack clear boundaries about, this is outside of our strategic plan, we're not working on that, setting very clear boundaries, then if that is not the case, implementation is very tough. So you need to revisit, how clear are we really on our mission and our vision statements? How clear are we on our values? Do we have boundaries in place? If yes, then implementation becomes a lot easier. Great. Okay. I think these were amazing questions. Thanks for that. Very, very exciting to see a thinking process going on here. So I'm going to close the poll right now. And I want to touch shortly about
In progress.
assuming that you work 40 hours per week. Maybe some of you founders work a little bit more than that. But your time and your organization's time shouldn't take more than 2 hours per week to the max to actually stay very on top of your strategic execution. That's it. 2 hours per week, that's 5% of your time. The habit. Like if you go to the gym for the next 20 years for 2 hours per week, you will see health results, right? So it's about creating the habit, but it doesn't require endless meetings of sitting and just talking about hypothetical strategies. No, it can be done with this easy framework here. It can be done in just as little as 2 hours per week. And 2 hours is not like one day meeting. It's all the touch points and all the quarterly meetings and all the yearly meetings combined is 5% of your time. So it's a no-brainer because it's going to make you more profitable. It's going to make you more productive. It's going to increase your the happiness of your people, engagement, motivation, just with 5% of your time. Of course, I don't want to pretend here that you have no idea about how to motivate and engage your people, but I'm looking about how you put your strategic plan in the organization, because the way how you do that will define whether or not you will succeed at it. The implementation that somebody of you wrote about in the last poll. Okay, so we got a question here actually, and in the previous poll, like, where do I start? Well, that's what I hear a lot of people ask me when I speak with them about the business. How is it going? Yeah, I explain them the framework, but where do I start? Okay, so I answer always with this. You have to understand your status quo first. You really need to have, get some tough love and get somebody who shines a bright light through your business and see where the issues are. Only then you understand where you need to start in order to make strategic planning work in your business. Because you might be very good at one of those aspects, right? You might be very good at execution already, or any of those other steps. But it needs to function as a whole, as like a complete picture. And that's why understanding your status quo comes first. And that's why I do with the clients as a first step, I do a performance scoring workshop. So I look at the performance on an organizational level, on a leadership level, when it comes to making a plan and also executing on a plan. And there comes some leadership topics as well there. And this will clearly give an insight. Okay, so we know now what to work on, and we know what not to work on. And as you've seen, that is one of the first steps to becoming more profitable. So that is where to start. And this is what I do. But if you want to do it yourself, just Go with your team for a day or two outside, somewhere in the forest, and get some tough love on the table. Guys, where are we struggling? Why are we struggling? What are we doing with this? Because you guys are in the forest all the time. And inside the forest, it's hard to keep eyes on the roads. Take that time to go like a drone above the forest and then realize where the paths are that you weren't there, but you can actually take. So that is what I do with the workshop, but that's what I advise you to do to get started, to really understand where those aspects are, what to do, what not to do. So I want to go a little bit into detail also what this scoring workshop is. Basically, it's a 2 times 1.5 hour session where 40 deep questioning. We do this over Zoom. And it also includes a company-wide team survey. So your team will be asked a couple of tough love questions as well. And then after that, I will have a 1-hour consulting session where I explain you a tailor-made 3-month roadmap in a form of a report so that you know what to work on and what not to work on. The topics that I cover is mission, vision, values, goal setting, alignment, the execution framework, workflow management, job design, and also talents and leadership. Very important aspect of executing as an organization on your strategic plan. Now, I want to ask you for permission to give me you a quick offer, because I know how important it is to get started. And that is that if you do this, if you understand your status quo, your productivity will improve because you know what and what not, right? There you will guarantee get a 5,000 euro saving, if not more. If you do less meetings because you are so clear on your strategy and you know what to do on, easily 3,000 euros saved. I charge my time when I sell it, when I do one-on-ones for an hour without outside of my consulting programs, I charge 500 euro per hour. So you get 4 hours with me, which is 2,000 in value. So in total, you get 10,000 euro in value to the least. Normally, the investment for this is almost 2,000 euro, but today, only for 5 people that have joined here today, so there were 46 at a certain point, I'm going to give it for 997. Only for 5 people, only that joined this live webinar. This is live, it's not a recording, I'm here. And so, yes, how can you do that? First of all, I want to show you, for example, I work with Jura. Jura, I helped his company set up the vision, mission, values, and OKRs, grew from 9 to 32 team members and 5 extra revenue. Was it me that did it alone? No, of course not. But the strategic plan 100% contributed towards that massive growth in the first year. Then recently I worked with Emanuele. Emanuele says that he recommends me to work with any founder, CEO, C-level manager if you want to jump into new levels of growth, because strategy is such an important aspect of growth. So that's why I want to give this to you at a huge discount. And when you think this is bullshit, when you think this is useless, after having bought it, I will give you 3 months of my time for free. 3 months. I will work for free with you for 3 months if you think this performance workshop is literally not at all what you needed. That's really how confident I am that this will give you great value. So thank you that I could make this proposal to you. How do you get it? There's a link here in the slide. You cannot click it, but I will share it also right now here in the chat. Just book a call with me. I just really love to talk personally with you about your challenges in your business. So I'm sharing the link here with you in the chat. Use that one to book a quick call with me if you want one of those 5 spots that I have available. All good? This is the final Q&A. Let's see where we are with the time. We have 10 minutes left. This is your opportunity to ask some last questions, whether it's to the content, whether it's connected to organizations or leadership, strategic planning, to the offer that I made. This is your chance to ask some final things to me. I'm here for you. Okay, one participant is typing. Share some love also. Tell me what you thought about this session today. Was it helpful for you? Did you learn something from it? What was your biggest insight? This is also the place to share that. Thanks for the session. You're most welcome, Anonymous. More people are typing. Okay. Coming up. If you need to step out, that's also fine. I really appreciate you being here today. Follow me on LinkedIn for content around strategic planning, productivity. Don't work for free. I'm not working for free. But thanks for the advice. I appreciate the love. More people are typing. How do you build core values? By the way, very useful session. Okay. Yeah, great point. First of all, you need to be really clear on what is your key focus, right? Like I mentioned this previously. Are you mainly customer centric? Are you mainly people centric, or are you mainly shareholder centric? There's no right or wrong here, right? There are companies that are doing great, they are shareholder centric. The companies that are doing great, they are people centric. That's where you need to start, because what you want to avoid is that you have inside your values, for example, a principle around like we want great customer service, and then in the same one you have we want to do everything for our people, and then also we want our VCs to be really rewarded for what we do, as some of your values, right? Shareholder value is a value in the end. That is very contradictory. You know, you cannot have that. What are your key principles? Are you people focused? Your core values should reflect that. So to elaborate a little bit more on this is where most companies go wrong when they set their core values. They look really nice and they are, you know, like super inspirational. Oh, we are having this value. We are very curious in our company, for example, or transparent. Transparent is one that you see almost always coming back. Great value. But the question is your organization really portraying transparency? Because if not, you're playing for the gallery. And that's when your core values do not give you the guidance and inspiration that you're seeking by having them communicated in the company. Hope that answers your question. We have 7 minutes. Okay, I'm okay to go a little bit over the time. That's not a problem. Ali says, reporting on strategy achievement is another obstacle we face across different business units. How to make strategy reporting more easy? Okay, it's quite a broad question, but it probably comes out of the fact measuring too much. It's like the classical thing that is happening in organizations. They just measure way too much things. So one thing is to understand when it comes to your reporting, you see that it's metrics. How is this going to influence any decision in my work today? You know, the result of the metric. If you cannot answer that question, skip the metric. It's useless. Metrics should drive decisions, mainly. That's dot, period. Metrics should drive decision-making in the organization. If you don't take any decision on a metric, skip it. That's how you can make it more easy, because it's usually just a handful, 3, 4, maybe 5, that are really that important per business unit. Thanks, Leon. See you very soon in our workshop. Great that you have been here also. See you soon. Thanks for the presentation. Second, should you consider competitors when creating your strategy? Absolutely. Absolutely. As I mentioned, strategy is your box. This is how you decide as an organization to overcome challenges in the market. Now, one of those challenges is your competitors. So you definitely should, and that usually comes out of your SWOT very clearly, because those are usually under the threats, under the weaknesses, because in the weaknesses point in the SWOT, you're also thinking and looking at, you know, how do others do something better than us that makes it a weakness at us? That is where you will figure out where you need to focus on in your strategic plan to tackle those challenges that weaknesses, that threats of your competitors. So your SWOT is a super good tool to drag those competitors into your strategic plan. Okay, so I think those were, do you need something from Avon? I don't know who Avon is. No idea. Maybe I need something. Could be. Yeah, okay. I think we're there. Thanks, it was great. Is there a difference between strategy and plan? P7, I guess you came in a bit later. I touched upon this topic. You will see it in the recording when I will share it with you. But in a nutshell, you can say that strategy is your box with walls that you define, right? And those walls are moving based on changing circumstances. Strategy is your box. Your strategic plan is what you decide with everybody in your organization on what to do inside of that box. So that is where the difference lies. You cannot have a strategy without a strategic plan. And when you have a strategic plan, it means there's always a strategy. So they're part of the same, but they are not the same. So that is how to look at the difference. Okay, we're through. That were all the questions. Very good questions. This was an amazing audience today. I so much appreciate that you've all been here, especially the ones who stayed on to the end. And yeah, I will share the recording with you either tomorrow or Monday. It depends a bit on how fast we can extract everything and work with my team to you. But you can expect the recording in the email address that you actually signed up with on the event. This is also the email address where you're supposed to have received some of the follow-ups around this event here. Amazing. Big thanks to everybody. I hope you become more strategic after today's call. Have a great evening, afternoon, wherever you're calling from, and stay tuned because there are more events coming like this in the future. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.